Will, hey, how are you, sir?
I'm good, Matt. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, man.
Good.
Thank you for coming. Listen, you reached out. I'm doing a bad job summarizing this. I got really interested in liquor licenses when Margaret Carmel wrote an article a couple years back. And I had heard from a couple other people like, hey, this is a developing issue within the state of Idaho, specifically that we have state-run liquor stores, and some places are allowed to get liquor licenses. You have kind of hospitality-style towns and resort towns where the liquor licenses are very, scarce and therefore worth a dump truck of money. But you have more people patronizing different areas, either during resort seasons or just in general. So you have a more demand for a greater number of liquor licenses, puts people with the liquor licenses in a great bind because they're like, hey, man, I may have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to acquire this liquor license as part of my business model. And now we're just giving them out left and right. And it's going to screw up the whole ecosystem around the liquor license that had developed. And you reached out as somebody who has been, had a business that was kind of a victim of the evolving liquor license legislation. And I was like, hell yeah, man. Like, I want to understand what this was because it appears that there really is no right answer. You can't, and for a myriad of reasons. But again, wanted you to come on and you agreed to kind of explain the history of liquor licenses in Idaho and what the problems are that we're grappling with currently.
I appreciate having me on, Matt. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me here. And I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to talk about this with you. It is near and dear to my heart. And I am from Idaho, born and raised, and I want what's best for this state. Yeah. And I'm doing what I can to solve problems. And this is one of the biggest problems that we have in the state, as far as I can tell, especially when it affected me in my industry. And, I was in the service industry since I was 15 years old. And I kind of caught wind of all of this when I was in my early 20s. And I know we were talking before the podcast that you're from the Bay Area. Well, I was working for some folks that had moved up here from the Bay Area. And I was bartending, and I looked on the wall at the liquor license that was there on the wall, and the license was signed by Larry H. Miller, who was a Mormon car dealership owner. And, that struck me as odd that a Mormon car dealership owner would own a liquor license. And I spoke to the owners. They were leasing it from Larry Miller. So
Larry had this asset, and he's like, I ain't going to sell it or give it to you, but you can just lease it so I continue recouping whatever investment he had made.
Right. So
wow, man.
I'll start you back at the beginning.
Sure.
All right. So Idaho became a state in 1890. In 1933, Prohibition was repealed. In 1935, the Idaho State Liquor Division was formed. And from 1935 until 1959, there was no quota system. Now, the state talks about temperance, and temperance is written into the Constitution.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
When you say and I apologize for my ignorance, when you say there's no quota system, that means that, or does it mean that from that roughly 20-year stretch, anybody who wanted a liquor license could go get it? There was no maximum or minimum or anything like that?
Right. It was...
Okay.
Obviously you had to meet requirements that the state put on, and as you still have to do, a background check.
Sure.
And all those things that you have to do to make sure that you are eligible to have a license. But there was no quota system for almost 30 years. And,
so you could have a bar next to a bar next to a bar, effectively, as long as people qualified and there was like a free market?
Well,
kind of.
And this is where
I'm sorry. I'll just stop asking questions.
No, Matt. No. I'm glad you were asking. It's good to clarify. It was up to the municipalities.
Gotcha.
So you would go in front of the city council, sure, and you would say, hey, this is the business that I'd like to run. And you would run it through the city council. And if they said, yep, you're good to go, then you were issued the license and you were A-OK. Right?
Because we're talking about different things.
It's at a local level.
Yeah,
a local level.
So we had a state organization, but then at a local level, they're like, Meridian could decide, hey, we don't want 3 bars in a row. But as far as the state was concerned, it's like, you've passed this background check. We're not really concerned about who gets it. We're going to leave it up to the locality.
Absolutely.
To decide what happens. Got it. Okay.
And to an extent, they still do that. There's still 2 dry counties in the state. Franklin and Madison are dry. Greenleaf, the city of Greenleaf, is dry. I believe up until very recently, for a local a local option, Middleton, was also dry liquor by the drink at restaurants, but they just passed it so that they could have that back. So, I mean, there is still temperance that is dialed in at local levels. So there was no quota system up until 1959, and there was still temperance. So come 1959, they decided to paint Idaho with a very broad brush and say that for every municipality, you get 2 licenses to begin, and then after every 1,500 people that move to that location in those city limits, you get another license. And so, that is a very homogenous way to look at the state when people in Boise don't operate like people in Rexburg, and people in Rexburg don't operate like people in Sandpoint. And so that kind of tampered down any sort of growth in this industry.
Yeah.
Right. So come to the 60s or 70s, we are still not we can't nail down when this actually happened, the original sin of all of this happened. But in the 60s or 70s, there was some growth happening in Idaho, and they realized, oh man, there's a high demand for these liquor licenses. There is a short supply due to the government making them short supply. And so the policy was put into place that a license could be sold person to person. And so that is a black market, and that is, that is now considered property, which in the code as it reads right now says that these licenses are not property and cannot be put into anyone else's name. That is how the law is written and how it is should be enforced. But the state allowed it to happen. So now you've got people selling them person to person. Well, as soon as you do that, people think this is property, and rightfully so. So now they start leasing them. The state takes a 10% transfer fee when those licenses are sold person to person, because those licenses are so hard to come by right now. Of course, the price of those licenses skyrocket because it's like a false economy. I mean, it is like having a housing market where you could build the houses, but you're not going to, and there's a high demand to live there, and the price of the houses go up, and so.
And if you wouldn't mind clarifying, so you're saying right now, as it exists right now,
mm-hmm.
state statute around the liquor licenses says these are not property and they cannot be transferred or sold or anything.
Yeah.
But also in state law, there are mechanisms or requirements when you transfer or sell the licenses.
Yes.
Okay. And the state participates in that they take part of the royalty or exchange value. So it's not just that we have conflicting legislation. We actually have a revenue stream that is in direct conflict with fundamental legislation.
100%.
Wow. This is getting wild. Keep going. Because some of these licenses, when you talk about 10%, it's not like 20 grand. It's like, no. Some licenses and really tricky, like if you want to sell a license in Sun Valley, you might be in at like $500,000 for a license or more.
I'm guaranteeing you in Sun Valley, they aren't going to sell it because it is.
It's like selling a gold mine.
It is. It's priceless. I mean, because they haven't issued a liquor license in Sun Valley since 1972.
Wait, why? Hasn't Sun Valley grown?
Not in. So they don't take into account, like, say, a place like McCall, right, where
sure.
It's 5,000 people that live there year-round. They don't take into account the time that the summer rolls around and 20,000, 30,000 people roll into the town and, take a second home there. That is not considered their population, and so that population is not factored into liquor licenses and how many are given to that city.
Okay, so look, I'm gonna stop and keep going. So now we're in the 60s, 70s. Nobody knows exactly when, but at some point, the state of Idaho started allowing and participating in what ostensibly is an illegal trade, but the state of Idaho is like, yeah, but just give us our money and we don't care.
Right.
Okay, keep going.
So, I mean, we're operating this way, and I understand that well, and now, fast forward to where we are now in a big boom time in Idaho, where a lot of people are coming in, and again, these things are in high demand, and they're scarce. They're hard to come by. When I was put on the list to get a license, so we can go to like how you acquire one. All right.
Sure.
Up until Senate Bill 1120 a few years ago, the three routes of obtaining a license was one, you get on the list, and in your city, and so when I was put my name on the list, I was like, I believe 96. And then 7 years later, when I checked, I was 84.
Oh, just 7 years. Okay.
So, you're looking at like 15, 20 years to be able to get that license, waiting on the list and waiting for the we did the math, and I believe it was like 133,000 people had to move to Boise City proper for us to come to number one on the list to get that license. So,
and when somebody closes down a business, or do they ever just turn in the license?
It does. It goes back. It does go back in, but there are so few out there that it doesn't really make a huge difference to that. And obviously the thing about that liquor license is, see, this is where we get into some really shady stuff, is because we were talking about how the licenses are sold person to person. This is called regulatory capture. So this is where, a person gets into this industry, maybe not because they know how to or want to be involved in the service industry. It's more because they see an opportunity to have a piece of property like a liquor license and then flip it for a lot of money later down the road. So it just, it kind of makes it obviously, there's always going to be players in the game that aren't in it for the right reasons, but it kind of heightens that. A lot of places, people just get in it just because they know that is a opportunity to run a oligopoly, not quite a monopoly, but
Sure.
They're one of a few. So you have a liquor license, you have a license to print money because you are operating. With something that your competition cannot.
Right.
So we were talking about Gooding before the podcast. I have friends in Gooding. I go down to Gooding. There are 2 Mexican restaurants in Gooding. One is better than the other one. One has liquor, one does not. One is more popular than the other, and that's the one with liquor. But it isn't the one that has better service or better food or, all the other things. So you're operating with... a competitive advantage over your neighbors, and I don't feel like that is an Idaho value. I've listened to your podcast. I listen to the folks come on here who are our lawmakers who talk about this all the time. That get big government out of small business, cut the red tape. Give equal opportunity to people, and so. That's a sticking point for me. So anyway, going back to I get long-winded with this.
No, you're good. So people, as we stood, let's say 5 years ago,
yep.
People are engaging in this trade. You had moved on to the list to get a liquor license, and you moved down 12 spots in 7 years. So you were sitting mid-70s. So by that rationale, you'd have to go another roughly 100 years at that pace to get, because if you move down 12 spots in 7 years, you're looking at another times 7, right? So okay, not 100 years, 50 years, 49 years. So you're going to be dead. Okay, you're not going to be dead. You're going to be an old guy, but you're lively. You moisturize.
No, I got you.
So we're both old men and well past our professional lives by the time they're like, "Hey, Will, good news, buddy.
Right.
You're up." And you're like, "Whoa." You put your dentures back and you're like, okay. So if for all intents and purposes, there's no path forward for you to actually gain a liquor license through the stated the legal system, which is like you now have a liquor license on your name.
Right.
So the only alternative for you, if you want to engage in a business that engages in liquor, is, okay, I got to find a way to get somebody to lease me this thing or sell it to me.
Absolutely.
And ain't nobody selling it to me, or it's the astronomical cost.
Absolutely.
So then, okay, how about a lease? Like I don't have the capital up front to actually game this in my name, but I could just lease it in the near term. Maybe if the business explodes, then I purchase one outright, or maybe I purchase like Humping Hand as an existing business and make it like my business. Not that they're selling, but maybe I do that. But in the meantime, to get the business off the ground and rolling, because I'm in the heat of my professional, value here, I am going to lease this and start a business using this leased mechanism.
Yeah. No, I mean that was a alternative to up until very recently. Senate Bill 1120 took that opportunity away. But yes, up until very recently, leasing was the way to go. If you were just trying to get in, you're paying $3,000 a month for a liquor license.
Right off the top, too.
Off the top. Just to operate and compete with your neighbors, and to a person who isn't even involved in the industry. I mean, we're talking about doctors, lawyers, property owners who add it to their portfolio. Government officials have them. I mean,
so these are people that aren't involved in hospitality, that just purchase these things.
Yep.
Like if you're a landlord and you're like, what's better than owning an apartment? Owning a liquor license.
This is Idaho's deep, dark little secret that they have kept for a long time, and they've kept a lid on it. And they've been operating this illegally for a long time, and it is affecting Idaho's well-being and livelihoods of people who live here. Look, man, I sat on a panel a few years ago, that year that we had Senate Bill 1120 come up, with Senator Momaestas. He's senator from New Mexico. They had a quota system up until year 2020, and they changed it in the COVID year. And the Chamber Alliance president of New Mexico, Ron Black. And what they talked about was what we see in Idaho. They said, look, we were watching our small towns dying. And if you go to a place like Payette or Weiser, Cambridge, these kind of places, border towns, where farming is becoming a little less desirable for families to take over. Right. And, you see despair in those towns. And then, you see 2 bars in those towns. They're both dive bars. And the reason, and you talk to these legislators and they say, we don't want any more dive bars in our town. We don't want any more despair in our town. Well, the reason there are only 2 is because there are only 2 licenses to be had in that city. Secondly, they know all they have to do is kick the lights on and open the door, and they've got what the customer wants. They don't have to do anything more than that.
So they don't have to be more than a dive.
Absolutely not.
It's not like, hey, anybody can serve a margarita, or anybody can do. So now you have competition to improve the quality of the establishment. And it's like, okay, I can't just have plywood floors. I got to do something that gets somebody in the doors over that place. Let's ramp it up. This is the nature of free market competition.
And this is what we talk about in Idaho all the time, is free market and capitalism. And, this is definitely a hindrance to that. So you've got small towns dying. They said, secondly, we saw tourism leaving. Border towns of New Mexico in Colorado. Folks were choosing to go to Colorado over New Mexico because there were more options for them in Colorado. And I don't need to get into what the options are there, but obviously they have more legal options than New Mexico. But keeping a lid on alcohol, which has been legal for over 100 years in all 50 states, it wasn't helping their cause. And then, go ahead. I can see you have a question. Go ahead.
Go ahead, I'm so locked in. There's so much. If I may ask a question, yes. I have never been in, I worked at Applebee's, okay? But I wouldn't say I worked deeply in the hospitality sector. However, it is my understanding that the 2 things that an establishment actually makes money on are the drinks and the appetizers. Those are your biggest leaders, okay? So you could have the best steak ever, but you may even be close to taking a loss on the steak as long as you can get somebody to come in and get a steak and also get an old fashioned along the way. And then you're like, aha, this is where I made the money. So if you're in between Colorado and New Mexico, you might have a better establishment, better quality, everything. But because you have the burden of making all of your money off of that main course, and you can't serve somebody an old fashioned along with it, you are going to have a different price structure and a whole different establishment versus the person who's like, oh, I have a trash ribeye, but I also got the old fashioned, or I also got the shot of, tequila, and people will come in because they want that. And then I don't have the pressure of making better food. So you have these completely different markets and the competition and the financial structure where people are like, dude, I can't, I could make the best food ever, but they want an old fashioned along with this meal, and I'm dying trying to compete with this.
We're seeing it over in eastern Idaho. I've talked to some folks over there in Driggs, and they're competing with Jackson Hole, and over in Wyoming, it's much more easy to come into contact with this kind of stuff, and people are on vacation to go ski, and so the folks over in Driggs and Victor, they're wanting to do that. They want to compete. They want to have people come to the restaurants. They have great restaurants. I talked to on a panel about this issue, Rex Chandler, who owns Chandler's here in town.
Yeah.
He had a place, an amazing restaurateur, been in the game for a long time, knows what he's doing. He had his first restaurant in Idaho in Sun Valley, and he left Sun Valley because he couldn't compete. He couldn't get a liquor license. He was serving beer and wine to customers who wanted a cocktail. And here's the other thing about this, because I've sat down, I spoke with Captain Gripton at the ABC, and this gentleman, his name's Brian Donsley. He's been in this industry for a long time. He's on the buying and selling side of things, and he was a senator at one time in Idaho. He's made a lot of money off of this stuff. And I understand their perspective of just buy canned cocktails and get a beer and wine license and go through the loophole of getting just a canned cocktail. And they're looking at it from outside of the industry and from their own greedy perspective. And what it is number one, there are no margins on those canned cocktails. Number two, there's no personality in those canned cocktails. When you come to a bar, you're coming for the creativity of the bartender who's standing there in front of you, who is making a cocktail for you and telling you a story behind that cocktail. And you cannot do that out of a can. And so, it's killing creativity of the industry as well. I
was at the Renegade Hotel just 2 days ago. Mm-hmm. I got invited to a dinner. I go, sit down. Great pork chop, by the way. Mm-hmm. Fantastic restaurant.
Shout out Renegade.
But, shout out Renegade. And again, I can't remember the name of the restaurant in the hotel is like really
Bamboo?
unique. No, it's like Robotobo. I don't
Roboto.
even know what it is. Yeah, whatever it is. I don't know what it is. But the point is, they're like, oh, would you like a drink? And look around. Everybody else has, some cocktail. I was like, yeah, sure. I'll have a gin and tonic. And the guy was like, okay, we have an oak barrel aged gin that brings out the she goes into this whole thing, and I kind of black out halfway through because I'm like, I don't even know what you're saying. She brings it and it's really good, but it's that exact thing. Yeah. She's like, it brings a character to this. Now, whether I like it or not, it certainly wasn't just, okay, a Bombay Sapphire. It was like, okay, this is a different experience that I'm teeing up to. And again, I can like it or not. It's irrelevant. But the point is, I agree with you. There's this personality along with this thing of I was not expecting this, and this is different, and it's cool. And again, the pork chop was really good. You should definitely try it if you're ever there. But I would love to talk to Rex, by the way, side note, about his experience, because ultimately, again, going back to the burden that he would have, if he's like, okay, I have to charge $60 for this ribeye because I don't have the added benefit. It's not about people wanting to get hammered at a restaurant, but it is about okay, I might order one drink and that would allow me to get a $45 ribeye, and the restaurant could still make money moving forward. If I'm okay, well, I'd like to go there, but the ribeye is $60, even if I don't want a drink, versus man, this other place has a good ribeye and it's only $45. Let's go there. You have that different financial breakdown because then other people will be going to offset the cost of the ribeye. So then that in my calculus of okay, well, the ribeye is a lot more economically reasonable here. That's a huge problem. I'm not, go out to eat a lot, and
Right.
I don't have like a ton of money to go out to eat. So if it was like $60 versus $40 and they're still pretty good, I'd probably go to the $40 place.
Right.
And that purveyor is able to offer that to me because of the offset of the liquor. That's essentially like the big picture, right?
Right. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, keep going.
So, and then you got big towns, and they were saying, places like Albuquerque and Santa Fe, they were seeing a lot of people leaving that are in this industry to go to places like Tempe and Phoenix to pursue their entrepreneurial dream of being in the service industry, because it was more it was a lower barrier of entry to be able to do that in those places. And so they were looking at retention right. of their kids and their grandkids, and keeping them in New Mexico. And they were like, look, this is something we had to do. And they said, there's always going to be constituents who are going to be angry because they put in a bunch of money to buy a liquor license, and this is how things operated. And he said, I had a guy come up to me. He said, Mo, once we passed it, I should be really angry at you because last year I bought 2 liquor licenses. It cost me $1.5 million for those licenses, and now they're essentially valueless. But now I can open 5 more restaurants, and the barrier to entry is much lower, so I'm going to make a lot more money. So if you're a real entrepreneur and you have that secret sauce, you're not going to be as angry, because you're going to be able to repeat the idea that you have, or get out of the prison that you have, and you just have this one place, but you've got this monopoly on a commodity. And you're operating maybe not the best business. I mean, that's the thing, man. A lot of these people are just afraid because they're not having to operate a very good business, and they know if competition comes, then their head might be on the chopping block, because they haven't had to work very hard to get where they're at right now, because they have a competitive advantage. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, dude. I could not
It's not so much the money. It's a lot of the. I mean, it is the money, obviously, but it's not the money of the license. It's the fear of competition.
Listen. I get it. I used to tell this to my as I was an SAT tutor in class. I'm like, listen, guys, you got to understand. I don't have contracts with your parents. If anybody comes to class and then goes home and says they don't want to keep coming to class, I'll refund all the money. You guys are here voluntarily. And I'll tell you why. Because even though I try my best every day, I know if I was guaranteed the money, I'd try a little bit less. I don't know exactly what it would be, but I would try a little bit less hard. And it's the same thing with there was this restaurant in town, Primo's. They always did pizza. I was like, I'm telling you right now, I don't even necessarily like Primo's pizza, but I swear to you, it would be way worse if Primo's knew I had to get pizza there. Whatever it is, it's like they'd try a little bit less, they'd care a little bit less, all of these things. The competition is going to put you on the razor's edge, and that is uncomfortable, 100%. And it is uncomfortable for me as an SAT tutor to know you could go anywhere else today, right now. But you know what? It's good for you. And it's ultimately good for me, because I don't become this complacent C- product that you guys are just suckered into and you hate. It's better for everyone.
Bro, you are speaking to me. My heart is singing right now. Can I tell you, can I go off just a little bit off topic?
You go wherever you want, buddy.
All right. So I am guilty pleasure. I love the professional wrestling industry. Right? I love it. I love it.
I was going back and forth with a friend about Mankind yesterday, because I was training with him at 6 a.m. in my barn. It's under 40 degrees in the barn. And so we're doing jiu-jitsu. We both have 4 layers on. He's like, I'm going to come after you like Mankind with a sock puppet. Because we're like, do we put gloves on?
Club?
Yeah. We both had left our socks on, freezing cold, but it was like we were sending the WWE memes back and forth all morning.
I love it. I love it. Well, I'm a fan of, I love the industry because it's entertainment, right?
Sure. Did you go to the thing downtown, by the way, when they were here over the summer?
No.
Dude, with Snake and the whole thing, I took videos. I was it was in the Grove. There was a live event. And I took my boys down.
Are we talking about an indie show, where people were wrestling, or are we talking about old timers that were coming down?
No, we're talking dudes, pro wrestling dudes, oh my God, he killed him, like slamming and the whole thing. Yeah, it was It was old. It was like WWF.
I love it.
Yeah, but it was WWF back in the day.
Yeah,
I got you.
Sure.
Keep going. Keep going.
Well, I'm just a fan of the industry because I service industry is entertainment industry, and you want to draw a crowd, and you want to you want to like get the storylines going, so people want to come and visit and spend their money with you. And one of the things was in that industry during the late 90s, early 2000s was the Monday Night Wars, right? And WCW and WWF. WCW was doing a bunch of guaranteed contracts, big money for all these stars to jump ship to come to WCW. We're going to guarantee all this money. And at WWE, WWF, they were saying you are going to make your money on the amount of merch that you sell, the money, the butts you put in the seats.
Yeah, right.
Like
this is going to be a meritocracy.
This is how they run.
You're going to get paid what you earn.
Absolutely.
Right.
And guess what? WCW went out of business because they were just like paying ungodly amounts of money to these guys who didn't care. They were just like showing up, drunk, high, whatever. They didn't care because they already got paid. That's the state of this whole thing, like they don't care, and so it's there's mediocrity in this industry, and I really want us to like step it up because I think that we can. I think that Idaho has the opportunity to do that, and me living here my entire life, never leaving, I saw a lot. Look, Idaho has just become it's kind of become into this Renaissance period again, another bloom. But like I grew up and this town was very, very desolate, man. There was nothing going on. I saw all my friends, creative people, leave for other places because it was more, available for them to create and to be creative in. And so it's always been something that has been a passion that lies within me to try and cultivate that in this industry that I found myself in, and this thing that I feel has kept us from reaching our full potential. And I think that we can do it responsibly, and that is another thing that's very important to me, that we do it. We have a responsible relationship with alcohol, because right now we don't. Right now we're living in this alternative reality where we just think punitive action and arresting and just being harsh on these actions are going to result in them not happening, and that's not what's happening. The objective truth is that we're very high in like DUI rates in the nation, and we have a lot of alcohol-related incidents, and it's due to like lack of education and lack of interest in this industry, man. We don't have there's no culinary school in southern Idaho. Boise State no longer has one. We're going through this thing where people get into the industry because they're, deadbeats or dropouts or whatever. There's a low barrier to get into the industry, so it kind of.
Are you saying like the hospitality industry?
Yeah, I mean, and I think that the legislature, people that have big people, if you want to call them that, jobs, they look at us in this industry as low lives, or people that aren't really. Especially the ones that aren't at the top, the owners, like the people that are serving or bartending. I feel like we get a bad rap on that because a lot of us, we're immersed in culture, world culture, a lot of the time, and we know quite a bit about wine and food and the world. And we have to be kept up on a lot of the goings-on of the world because we have to have conversations with our guests and, keep that retention coming back. So we have to be smart. But there is no school to kind of like bring those people along in the right way and to educate them anymore. So now we are getting kind of that type of person who sees it as a low barrier to entry and doesn't feel like they have much going on in their lives, and so that becomes a vicious cycle. And especially with Boise is an outlier. Most of the state is rural, and you don't see the kind of growth and stuff that you see in this valley, in those other places. And man, they're working so hard. I started a coalition a few years ago, working on this problem, and would cold call people in 44 counties of Idaho to talk to them. And man, they don't have a breath to give. Like, they are just over their eyeballs in debt, in work, and we do it because we love to serve, man. Like, that's what we love to do. We are the party throwers. Every night of the week we are throwing the party, so you all have a place to come and enjoy yourselves, and to have that third space, and to have, before you go to a wedding, or after a game, or before you go to the show, or whatever.
Or just, dude, like, I have my oldest just got old. This is wild times, Will. He just got old enough to babysit the other two, and the wife and I have now gone on like 2 dates.
Congratulations, man.
Thank
That's
you.
Huge.
Thank
That's
you.
huge.
And like we could get a babysitter, but you're in it like $60 for the baby, because we got 3 crazy boys. We'd be gone for a couple hours, few hours, and we're like, well, I'm not going to pay her like $12 an hour. We're going to try to pay her $20 an hour, maybe 30, or it's going to be like 22, whatever it might be. So we're in it like 60 or $80. If you got to drive somewhere, it's going to be $80. So you're in it almost $100 before you get the first bite or sip of anything. It's like, dude, I don't have the time. So now the wife and I have gone out to like go to dinner, and we pay my oldest $10, and we pay the younger two $5 each.
Don't watch this one.
Yeah.
Don't
And so,
listen to this one.
so then they're being really good because they want to get the $5. I'm like, dude, I went from $80 to $20. And now it's like, if we got a $60 delta, like, we could spend $60 before we even like hit where we were just getting out.
100%.
And so we've started going out. It's like, where should we go?
Yeah.
Like, this is great. Like, we're starting to explore more places, and it is wonderful to have that place. It is wonderful to have a new place to explore, try a new spot. And, I do not envy the people in hospitality, because it is, I remember the first time when I really learned hospitality is rough, right? There was this place called Rocco's in my hometown where I was growing up. And this guy Rocco was really connected to one of the Catholic high schools, and the football team was this really, really good football team, De La Salle. And they were like, Sony made a movie out of them. It was like, you're a high school football team, right? And they would always go to like Rocco's after the game. And like, that's where people would go to watch the games. And it was this big thing, right? And Rocco's exploded, right? It was like one spot in this mall next to this grocery store, and then it like took over another one, and they like cut a hole through the wall, and like people are going back. They had this gigantic saltwater fish tank, which I love fish, and I was like, oh, this place is awesome. But the point is, a friend of mine was like, oh yeah, I saw Rocco the other day. I was like, man, he must be killing. He's like, dude, he looks old. And I finally saw him one day, and his like hair was great. He was in his 50s. He was like white hair, and I was like, why? They're like, this is just it's like a curb sandwich every day. And here you see what seems to be success, and it's just this absolute grind every day for that guy to keep the Dominator pizza going, to keep the fish tank clean, to keep the employees going and not stealing things, to keep the community happy, to make the wrongs right, whatever those may be, to deal with unreasonable customers. And then somebody who wants, free stuff, and they're like, well, I'm part of this football team, and we're not coming back here unless you take care of this. And it's like,
and the Yelp reviews.
And the Yelp reviews.
I am 28, Matt. I am 28 years old. Look at me.
Look at me. I applied for the liquor license when I was 21. I'm 28. Like, a side note, I have this real great strategy with, I was going to do this for my SAT company, but then, everything kind of imploded over COVID. Nobody had ever started a Yelp review for me, but I wanted to start the Yelp review myself and get all of my students to give me all 1 stars and just flood. First off, openly say, like, I'll give you this free. I gave all the merch for free, but I was going to make a specialty line of hoodies for kids that says I'm a 1 star at Matt Todd University, and have like the 4 blank stars and another one, and essentially flood it with like the most ridiculous Yelp reviews ever. Like, I came into Matt's class, and he had a pencil, he had a cup full of pencils, and all of them were sharp. except for one star, right? And so just flood it. So when people search, they're like, he has 151, not a single 5-star review. And if anybody ever gave me a 5-star, I'd reply as a business being like, I will pay you to make this a 1-star, which is against Yelp policy. So like everybody knows it's just this like open, like, oh, well, this is useless. Because by the way, I actually think that's what we should do with Yelp. I think people hijack the Yelp reviews, and I think Yelp actually hijacks restaurants and is like, we can help you get rid of, we'll help you get rid of these 1 stars, but like, we need you to be a premium member or something. It's like, you know what, Yelp? How about I harpoon your entire platform? I'm going to make your review system for my establishment so comical, I'm actually going to make it work for me because you are trying to essentially extort me for what? And how do we know the reviews are real anyway?
Right.
Like Yelp, I mean, you go to TikTok, everybody's like, oh my gosh, TikTok works so great. How do you know those are real views?
Right.
All they have to do, they know all you want is views. They all know all you want is comments. What's stopping them from having their own bots?
Rather, it's the answers are the butts in the seats, not the notifications, not the hearts or the stars or whatever it is. It's getting the butts in the seats.
I want Yelp to go down with like, I want half the businesses in Boise to be like, give me the 1 star, and then just flood it with like, and then because you have 105-star reviews, and then one person who's like always the person who pees in the pool, and it's like that one person who gives you a 5 or 1 star, and then everybody goes straight to the 1 star. What if you're like, all of these 1 stars are ridiculous? Yeah, that's the point. That's the point. And then the person who really wants their like crappy little 1-star review, they'll be lost in the fray.
Lost in the shuffle. I love it. Yeah. I love it. Good,
anyway, that's my idea.
Good stuff. I dig it.
Keep going.
I dig it. Well, where were we? We were talking about the senator in New Mexico.
Yeah.
And so it kind of brings us up to 11:20, and this is where we were talking about Senator Guthrie and getting together with the folks that are wanting to be at the table for negotiations. And we didn't get it done that session. He put forth Senate Bill 1120, which he was doing what he could to do the right thing, I do believe, but it was totally wrong in the approach. What it did was it took away the ability for leases going forward. And so we had a short-term lease, and then during that session, the law was passed, July of that year. It went into action, and then our lease was up in January of 2024. So then we, that entire time from when that law was passed until when we had to give it up, we were scrambling to try and find something to find an investor. I spoke with people who had liquor licenses, trying to get them to like become silent partners in our bar. I worked nose to the grindstone every day to because that was especially in the downtown space in Boise, Idaho, with the amount of rent that we are paying. We're talking about LA, New York kind of rents in little old Boise, Idaho. Liquor will, and especially, man, I gotta say, it doesn't help with all the construction that's happening in downtown Boise right now. It's killing it. They turned the dial for development to 11, and like it has had a very negative effect on the ecosystem of the downtown service industry. So you're operating 2 days a week, essentially, Friday and Saturday, and you're paying rent every day of the month, 24 hours a day. So that don't work out. And then when you have a thing like a liquor license pulled where you're actually making margins, then, the fix is in, and, you're basically on the clock as far as like how long you are going to be able to exist. And, like we have a lot of times 16 days of cash flow. In the industry, you're out in, I thought my bar was a worthy vessel. I saw all this.
What was your business? Because you and I met after it was already closed, right? Like, what was it?
Space Bar Arcade. So it was an arcade bar. We actually, we pride ourselves in having a activity to do at the bar. You know, like you go play video games, and we had board games as well, and I
love both those things. By the
pinball
way.
machines, and we were also I'm a kind of a techie kind of guy. To be honest with you, I'll be completely frank with you here. I am not the biggest gamer, but when I got into the business, the previous owners of the business, they were collectors and they were looking for a place to put their stuff. And I'd been in this industry for a long time, so I knew that I could, make it my huckleberry. And like I'd taken in a lot of information and had a lot of experiences in places like that in big cities over my life. And I was like, we could make this really cool for Boise, right? So luckily enough, I was hired to run it, and then about 5 or 6 years in, bought it from the previous owners and ran it. And then, we wanted to, basically I felt like we had reached the maximum output of what we had in this little space. I mean, it was under 1,000 square feet, man. Like it was, we would basically run it to where
capacity.
We could. Yeah. And I was still just making it, week to week. It was 10 years in, man. I was tired of it. I was like, the only way we're ever going to be able to make money at this thing is if we add spirits to the menu. And
at that time, you guys were just doing beer and wine.
Beer and wine, beer and wine. And there's no margin on beer and wine. It's it's quaint and it's fun and it's cute and all that, but like you're not making money. And right. I mean, the industry now, the way it is like you have to have so much money to be involved in it. Like you have to be rich. It's basically like being in, like if you are a race car driver, if you are just wanting to burn money on fire, just light it on fire, because that's what you're doing, man. Like every month, especially with all of this stuff that's going on in downtown Boise right now, with like the development going and like how long yes, you see the towers going up, and yes, you see the potential of people moving to downtown Boise and having the captive audience in front of you, but all of that takes time. That takes time, and it takes like the development to stop, and then for people to be able to move in, and then for those fences to come down, and for people to like retrain their brains to be able to go back down and patronize those places. And I thought I had this worthy vessel because we'd been in business for so long that we'd be able to wait that all out. And I was thinking all we had to do is get across a lake, and we got the middle of that lake. And I looked around, I was like, oh my God, we are on the ocean right now. Like, I don't have enough fuel to get to the other side. I mean, there's not enough money to burn to like get to the other side of this thing. And I think you see a lot of places that are in that exact position right now. I think there were 4 places that went out in Bodo recently, P.F. Chang's being one of them. Water Bear, which was a main component of downtown Boise. I mean, they were getting a lot of write-ups in the Wall Street Journal and places like outside of Boise to drive the popularity of Boise, and they just went out of business, man. Like, we are becoming a victim of our own success. Anyway, that's beside the point. I
don't think it is.
But
I don't think that is besides like. I almost always see all sides of arguments. Mm-hmm. Okay. And this one is a really, really tough one it's like you kind of squint and you're like, yeah, what does this have to do with, like, we're in the West, right? Like Monica Church put this really well. The first time I met her, she's like, look, man, this is the West. Like, we used to have the highest concentration of Mormons, lesbians, and guns, like out of anywhere. And it was 100%. Like, wow, that's why. Like, I'd never heard it that way. She's like, when did we become this nanny state? And I was like, man, that's weird, because I hadn't thought about Idaho in that manner. And she started outlining a lot of things as they related to just kind of this heavy hand of the state with like a capital S, right? And this big government. And she's like, there is no room for local government. There is no, like, the state does not like localities doing their own thing. They want people to abide by their moral, ethical, and legislative compasses. And that's distinctly un-West. Like, that's not the West. That is a large state first, large state issues, and like the government is the solution, instead of allowing people locally to regulate themselves and locally to elect local officials that reflect the majority of the populace viewpoints. Like, it's the exact opposite of that. And I started looking at a lot of things like this, and it's like, yeah, maybe this is all related. Maybe the fact that I can't find a great Mongolian beef here is related to these issues. Maybe the fact that you can't, like, you don't have a lot of different options or as many options as you want. Because it's like, why isn't there, within the hospitality world, it's like, why aren't more of these things happening? It's not that we don't have people coming through here. I had this really cool guy, Adam Tiller, who's this traveling comedian, and he came through to do a show here like a week or two ago. And he hit me up. He's like, hey man, do you want to do a podcast? I was like, yeah, that's great. Came in, I went out to see the show. I never go out in public. I never go downtown. I never do anything. I go from this studio to my house, and that's all I do, unless I got to take my kids somewhere. Yeah. So I go downtown. It's like, dude, this is really cool. Now, mind you, the opening acts weren't great, but what was cool is like, oh, these people are learning. Like, they're trying to understand comedy. And then you got kind of the middle acts, and you're like, all right, more polished, missed it on that joke, but like more polished. And then you got to the main act, Adam, and I was like, he's got it dialed. Yeah. And it was cool just being part of that. Like, this is all part of it. This is part of like culture and this vibrant downtown, and like making these hotbeds or kind of incubation chambers for people coming up in the Boise area in this, entertainment industry and being better at it. And you got to patronize these people, and you got to go down and listen to the bad jokes and like hear somebody hit a punchline and like crickets. Right. It's like, it was so weird. I was like, this is crazy. And then again, leaving, I'm like, this is really interesting. Like, and again, I'm no surprise that I'm new to it, because I don't try to engage in it, but like, I should come down here more. Like, I really want to start understanding this culture more and meeting more of these people. And again, it's all related, where it's like the more restrictive or the more, imbalances we have, or the more the government picks winners and losers.
Oh, brother, this is what's happening, man. Like, so, I mean, I'll kind of steer us back into, I appreciate that, transition, because like this will take us perfectly into the next step. And yeah, we're one of the highest regulated states in the nation. What's been happening when I first went up to the legislature to talk to them about this, a lobbyist came up to me. He's been in the game for a long, long time. His name is Russell Westerbrook, and he was like, "Hey guys, just get a loophole." He's like, "Just pay me." He's like, "Just pay me $50,000. We'll write up a little policy, and we'll write it into the licensing on like there's a way that we can get you a license." For your industry, for your specific thing, that'll allow you to get a license. That's just picking winners and losers, man. Like, that's paying you to get the
game the system.
Like, man, there is so many holes poked in this cup. It don't hold water anymore. Like, there is so many holes in it. Like, now they're making laws for resort cities. Well, what constitutes a resort city? Because people come to Boise to recreate. It's not a resort city. Like, now when Sun Valley's a resort city, or McCall is, but not Boise. Like, you're picking winners and losers, man. Like, and I've talked to an attorney about all this. He said, "Man, you must have pissed off the wrong person." I pissed off the wrong person for asking a question? Like, that's not how this should be. This shouldn't be that I don't get something, a license, because I pissed somebody off, or like they have like this, anger towards me because I asked a question on how things are being done. Like, it's a valid question to ask, and so to feel retribution, or feel like there has been retribution paid on a question being asked, that don't sit right with me. As I was coming over here and I was thinking about my mom. She's from a little town in Nebraska called Chapel, right? It's a tiny little farm town. She came out here to go to College of Idaho when her brother came out here as well. And my dad's from Caldwell, so that's how they met. But a fun fact is Cabela's started in Chapel, Nebraska. And my mom and my uncle went to school with the Cabela boys. They wanted to start a mailer in Chapel and send it out so that they could grow their business. And they went down to the post office, and the postmaster there refused to do that because it was too much work. He wasn't going to do it. So they moved their operation to Sidney, Nebraska. And that is where it took off. And that's where Cabela's blew up. It could have been Chapel. It could have been where my mom and uncle grew up. This is the kind of thing that is hindering Idaho. It's like, man, I want to give to this state. I want to do something beautiful and fun and creative for this state and make us known for it and like give back to the state I love. And y'all are actively killing it because you don't, like, for no real reason, just because like you don't want to do the work, like the change the policy. And I wrote policy, good policy, succinct policy, and it talks about all the players in the game. It addresses everybody. And if you want, I can run through it with you real quick. It's real easy.
But if I may, this is almost analogous. You brought up Cabela's. I was like, what if? This is crazy. But I was like, what if there was like an ammunitions license? And it's like, hey, man, you could have your gun shop, you could have your shooting range, you could have whatever you want, but only a couple people can sell bullets. And that allowed certain stores or certain ammunition licensed dealers to stay in business even though they had a crap business model. And then you have like Cabela's, or you have like all these top, firearms dealers, and very few people go there because they're like, yeah, man, but I got to go there and then I got to go to another place to get ammunition. Like, I'm just going to go to the ammunition place. Like, and then like all of a sudden the margins are all screwed up. And by the way, now that the person is the only person that can sell ammunitions, you know what else they do? They can sell you that firearm at like a 30% discount. It'll be a loss leader because they're going to make up the money on the bullets. So now all of a sudden you're like, dude, yeah, I could get it there, but that's $1,000. That guy will give it to me for $750. Go there. I don't care. It's the same gun. It's the same rifle. It's the same whatever. Yeah, I'll just go there. And now I get a cheaper thing, and I only stop in one spot. I'm not going to go there for one stop for $1,000 firearm and then have to go to another place to get the bullets for it. No, I'm just going to go there. It's cheaper there anyway, and I get my bullets. Little do you know, it's like a 400% markup on the bullets because they're the only ones in the area that sell the bullets.
Brother, why do you think the same places in all the places in Idaho, not just Boise, but all the places in Idaho, are able to weather all the storms? They're able to weather all these storms, the development or the COVIDs or the downturn in tourism. The same places make it through every year because they have the thing that makes them money, and the others don't.
I went to a place in the village on a double date like 4 months ago, and I got a ribeye. It was the worst ribeye I've ever had. It was terrible. But they also had a gin and tonic. And it's like, I literally was like, this is really bad. Like, I'm not going to tell you where it was, but I was like, this is really, like, let's never come back here. How are they in business? Because they got nachos and they got gin and tonic. They got the drinks and they got the apps. And they don't have to care about the ribeye.
Right.
They already made their money. They might be just breaking even on the ribeye. Maybe they're losing on the ribeye. They don't care because they gave you the ultimate nacho that probably cost 45 cents to produce, but it cost me $17 to buy. And they got the gin and tonic. And guess what? They made their money back on that bottle after the first 2 shots were poured. And the next 40 were all profit. And there you go. They don't have to have a good ribeye. Yeah. I'll never go there again. It was terrible. Yeah. What's your legislation?
You want to know it?
I do. I actually do.
Okay. So
is there any chance that this legislation is coming back?
I would love for it to. I would love to just like get a committee hearing just so we could get it out in the public so we can dissect it. And
does this have to go through like House and State Affairs or something? What's the committee?
So it would be State Affairs so right now, Senator Guthrie has decided that he is going to take on all liquor license related issues. He is the State Affairs Committee chair. So it would be run through that body. The House doesn't want to have anything to do with it. Senator Crane, or Representative Crane, said that he didn't want to have anything to do with it until it came to him
through the Senate. Gotcha. So,
look.
I still like my gun store analogy. That one resonates so perfectly. I ain't buying $1,000 gun. I'm going right there. They got the bullets too.
Perfect. Perfect. I mean, we've laid this over the top of a lot of things, but that is great because, like, can you buy and sell your fishing license, your driver's license, your nurse's license, like your law license? You can't do that with any other license.
Your driver's license? Like, you imagine selling your driver's license? Who's buying it?
Right. So anyway, it would be run through the State Affairs Committee, and the draft is essentially we want to raise the cost of the license to $5,000. So right now it's $750. If you can get to the top of the list,
it's $750.
$750.
But you'll never get there. So it's the price is effectively irrelevant because you can't even get there.
I'll tell you a quick story. This is just a sidebar here. Horseshoe Bend. I've got friends in Horseshoe Bend. Shout out to the folks at the Riverside up there.
Is that restaurant with the stage and the whole thing?
That one.
Yeah. I've been there. It was great.
Yeah,
super
cool place. So they have beer and wine, right? They are on the list. There are, I believe, 800 people that live in Horseshoe Bend. The two licenses that they have, because they only have two, are held by the same family there. The next person on the list to get the license, if it were to ever come up in Horseshoe Bend, which it would have to grow substantially, which it probably won't, because with the parameters of Horseshoe Bend, I don't know that it could hold that many people.
Right.
But
you come out of the valley pretty fast.
But if it were to happen, the next person on the list is the family that already has the two that are in the city. So, I mean, come on, man. Like, this ain't right. This ain't right. So,
and your friends own the Riverside?
And they own the Riverside, and they want to have spirits. They want to be able to.
Well, you gotta hook me up with Rex and the Riverside people.
Okay,
I'd love to understand because again, like and it sounds like they have distinctly different experiences. Rex obviously realizing that a very prosperous market in Sun Valley is not one that he can, bring his fan. And I've been to Chandler's. Like, it's a very, very good restaurant.
Always on point.
Like, not a bad ribeye. Like, definitely not. And then obviously a more resort town where it's kind of like, look, we've been here forever. We'll never have a liquor license because there's like the liquor license, I don't want to say mafia, but like the people, there's like, it's dynastic. It's dynastic. It's dynastic licenses. I got that. We're terrible people, man.
I don't know, man. I mean, you're just speaking truth.
So again, you'd raise the price to $5,000.
Okay, so here's the deal. You're never going to get a payout to these people who are asking for it. These folks that are saying, we want our money. We paid all this money into this license. We want our money back out of it. You are not going to take tax dollars from Nana and Rexburg and pay off a personal debt to someone for a liquor license, man. That ain't
doesn't make sense.
That's probably illegal.
Yeah,
like to be able to.
Nana don't want no part of that.
No. Come on. So you're not going to get whole in that way. But the way to make it whole is to raise the barrier of entry to new entrants. So you say, okay, no, it's not $750, but we also don't have to wait on the list for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Because what a lot of people do is like they'll have a kid, they'll sign their kid up. And when their kid turns 25, 30, they are basically being handed $350,000.
Dude,
you know what I'm saying?
No joke. About a half an hour I was thinking about that. I was like, what if I sign my kid up?
Yeah.
And then like all of a sudden he gets up to the list and then like he's 45, he gets the thing.
That's the thing.
And then all of a sudden he's like, here's your retirement, kid.
That's
like right into the 401k.
That's the thing. Yeah,
you should put it into a family trust. That's who should own it. Then it's just like dynastic liquor licenses.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is wild.
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
And, I mean, again, like property, man, you have to keep property up. You have to like take care of it if you want it to retain value. Yeah. A piece of paper is not property, man. Like that's not something you have to keep up or, for it to retain its value. The value is just going higher and higher because the demand is higher and the supply is lower. So anyway, we want to raise the price to $5,000. So that hits a lot of notes, right? So that's every place that's going to go in and get spirits and add it. Most places, I think, what you'll see is people that have beer and wine, they're just going to add spirits to their service, right? So that's every place. You're now putting $5,000 a year into the Idaho coffers. And that money goes to the ISP. The ISP wants money for enforcement. They want more money for administration.
Fuel, man. Fuel. They need fuel.
Yeah, they've got three people in their office to run it now because there's so little going on. But if you're to open the gasket I mean, if you open this valve up, then there's going to be a lot of stuff coming, and so you have to be able to prep them for all of that. So administration and also education too. You know, that money goes to education, but that's a grip of money every year, and that's going to completely offset what money they're making off of person-to-person sales currently, you know, that also is touching the temperance note. It's not, you're not going to be just some looky-loo going like, oh, it's only $750 a year to get into the industry. I'm just going to start a bar, like whatever. You're going to have to know you're going to make that nut every year in order to keep it going. We wanted to dovetail it into the 1120, which is going forward. The people that have these, they're called the legacy license holders, right? These people that have them now. They have the opportunity now to sell their license one more time. So if they go to sell their business, they can sell their license with it one more time, but that's it. So we wanted to dovetail into that and say, keep that in place. You are able to sell it one more time. And what raising the value or the price of it to $5,000 is, it retains your value as an owner, because now you have 30 years of blue sky, 30 years of name recognition, 30 years of clients coming to your place, and you've got a liquor license that you're selling to a potential buyer for $750 in perpetuity. They're only going to have to pay every year instead of $5,000 to start their own place, right?
Sure.
So like you get nothing as far as name recognition, blue sky, or clientele, and you're going to have to think about that $5,000 barrier too to start your own place. So that's, you know, that kind of offsets a little bit. You know, we're thinking about the most someone had to pay, because not everybody had to pay that money. They talk about that number, but not everybody paid that number. Some people waited on the list. Some people paid $25,000, $2,000, whatever it is. But we were thinking about how much someone who bought at the top of the market would have to pay a month for a loan on their license, which, by the way, banks are no longer giving loans on these licenses, because now
they know the legislation might be changed.
Well, and also like they can't be sold again, so they retain no value. It's only just a license to business.
Could I stop you just real fast?
Yes.
I have to pee so bad.
Yeah.
Okay, we're back. So you were saying that banks no longer are loaning on them because they can only be sold one time.
Right. And so, you know,
it's like a house. You're like, you can sell the house once, but then it falls into the earth.
Totally. I mean, like, and who's going to buy a 300? Because the price is still $300,000 dollars. So who's got the money to be able to purchase that? It ain't a small business. It's an Applebee's. They go, hey, how much does it cost to do business in Boise, Idaho right now? I see it's booming. We need a liquor license. How much? $300,000? Cool. Write it into the budget. It's for corporations, man. Like, that's who's going to get those licenses. And so
it artificially hampers actual like native Idahoans who are trying to start a business. They're like, look, man, I got an idea. I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to scratch an itch. I think it's going to be awesome. Like, I think the community, by giving me their dollars, they will agree with. And if I'm wrong, if the community doesn't want this, like, you open a bar in the middle of like, you know, the wrong spot, you're going to go under. If the community's like, nah, man, we're not about this life. Right? If the bar makes a lot of problems, the sheriff can be like, dude, you got to clean this up, whatever it is. But like, the community is going to give you feedback. And if the community's like, no, man, we want this, then who's winning by engaging in artificially restricting that? Like, who benefits from those things?
Think about some townie up in Sun Valley or McCall or Sandpoint or Coeur d'Alene who, you know, wants an après ski after, you know, a day on the hill, and they're wanting to open a place, and I mean, you're a victim of your generation, because you're not going to be able to do that. You don't have the opportunity to do it. So, you know, we wanted to raise that price to $5,000 so that, you know, it showed that we were serious about people wanting to get into the industry. Like, you have to be serious about it. And also, you know, that monthly payment that you'd be looking at, about $400 a month on that, obviously much lower than a lease, but also what you would be paying on a loan if you were to pay it at the top of the market for a license. And so we wanted to show that we wanted skin in the game, that new entrants wanted to put skin in the game and that we were serious about it. It lowers the barrier to entry. It doesn't make the folks that are the legacy license holders whole. No, but I don't think they'll ever be made whole. I just don't think that the state's ever going to cut them a check. There's just no way that that's going to happen unless we run a sin tax and we say, look, here's 5 years. This is the window. You have to prove to us what you paid for that license. We're going to on every cocktail sold, we're going to add a nickel or dime, whatever it is, and that's the window that they have that slush fund. And then you take the money out of that fund, and then once that window is closed, then you say no more to that sin tax.
There's no other mechanism in the state of Idaho where you have personal property that's devalued by supply and demand equation, and the government makes you whole. Like, I got a house, and if they're like, houses are really expensive, I'm like, it's $1 million house. It's awesome because they know their house is like this. And then they open up a farm next door for development, and the price goes down slightly because it's like, well, now it's not just my place. It's like those other 100 places. I'm like, hey, man, you guys rezoned this, and it decreased my property value by 5%. You owe me that $50,000.
100%,
that's
bro.
not fair.
And this is the thing. Like, these people, I love them. They're my community members. They're my neighbors. They're my friends. But they are completely wrong, and they know it. And they're asking for money that, like in any other investment, you don't get that. You don't get
that guarantee.
That net. You don't. Like, if you buy at the top of the market and the bottom falls out, you lost your investment. That's the way the cookie crumbles. That is capitalism. That's how we run, man. Like, that's
now, mind you, if you were a dude sitting across from me saying, I bought this thing for $300,000, I'd probably be like, wow, man, that sucks. Like, I'm not unsympathetic, and I think we should understand those people and understand their problems. But here's the other thing. How many of those people exist? And let's weigh the cost-benefit analysis of, we only see what exists in front of us right now and the problem that change would bring to the table. So we see the situation and we understand the issue here. We don't see 10 years from now, if this change occurs, how the market adjusts, the benefit or hindrance to the state of Idaho and the citizenry, and where all of these things play out. We only know the devil we know. And we're like, hey, man, this is really bad. I know it's an imperfect situation, but it has all these problems. We can't change anything. Yeah, unless we change something.
Right.
And then we go 10 years down the road. It's like, okay, what happens?
Again, a perfect transition. The last part of this whole thing was just to, over 10 years, roll the quota system back. So 150 people less on that number of, 1,500 for 10 years. You know what I'm saying? So, like, it would affect larger cities first. So it would open up more licenses for places like Boise, Twin Falls.
Right.
These places that are in need of them. And it would kind of slow things down for the smaller towns in Idaho and give them time to brace for impact, right? So, like, when we went from analog to digital signal for your news, they for a long time would tell you, on this date, if you don't have a digital antenna, you're not going to get the signal.
Right.
Like, this is the thing we are telling these municipalities. Over the next 10 years, we are slowly rolling this thing back, and it will come to the place where you guys need to have something set into place for your community to say, this is how we want to live, this is how we want to operate, this is how we want to govern over this city. And we want to have the opportunity to have people come to the city council and say, look, we want to open this place. Is that okay with you guys? Like,
right.
I think that will give Idaho more character and be able to, like, look, I want safety for Idaho, and I want, like I said, I grew up here. I love it. I haven't left. I have a love-hate relationship with it at times because of the hypocrisy that exists a lot of times. But I'm doing my little part. I have a
love-hate relationship with myself.
Yeah, that too. But I'm doing my little part.
Sure.
As best I can, And look, I know nobody wants to eat that crap sandwich that is losing all that money. But I ate it. I ate that sandwich. I lost my business. I went bankrupt. I loved that business. I operated it for 12 years. It was what put food on the table for my family. It was creatively, it made me whole. I loved coming to work every day and entertaining and showing people a good time and hearing the compliments of like, this should be in my town, this should be in San Francisco, this should be in New York, this should be in LA, this should be in, a bigger city, but it's not, it's in little Boise. I loved that, man. Like that kept me going. And it's been a year and there's been a lot of, grief to go through in losing it. And I don't want those people to have to go through that. But I just want the opportunity to move something forward so that we can, as an industry, move forward, move past this and turn this page of a dark past of Idaho and get to the next one and do it in a responsible manner, like a thoughtful way. Like, let's not turn the valve like, that we are seeing in downtown Boise where they just turn the development valve up to 11 because it has negative effects, right? Like, let's think about like how much to turn it and turn it slowly but start making thoughtful steps to reverse what's going on now and to get to a healthier space with the industry. And, you before the podcast, you mentioned people like Tammy and Fair, and, those guys are doing a great job to put the service industry to the forefront and to give us a healthy service industry, getting us to get in touch with our local farmers and, that's extremely important. Just to have it all work together as a healthy ecosystem. So that's where I'm at. Yeah,
man, I deeply appreciate your sentiment. I started a business when I was 22, and it's the only thing that I ever did, and it made money for my family and like you're seeing the vestiges of it now. It was like this was one of the last sweaters I made like in 2021. And, policy changed and the world changed around us. And this one thing that I had that was my baby that I was like, I can't believe I pulled this off. Like, this is incredible. Yeah. It all disappeared. And you know what was left? It was tutoring company. You know what was left? The big national guys. Princeton Review, Kaplan, the big hacky corporate people that just overcharged and underpaid their employees and had a crap product and didn't care at all. Like, they didn't know the kids they were working with. And it's like, I appreciate your sentiment, and I don't wish that on anyone either. But the number one thing that I've kind of been thinking about this whole time is like, say I'm a business owner. I'm like, hey man, I paid $300,000 for my liquor license. And now you're just going to allow other people to get liquor licenses. Like, you're going to devalue my investment, all these things. Like, it still works though. Anybody just look at technology. Like, I bought a $3,000 MacBook for video editing a year and a half ago. Guess what that's worth now? Probably not the toilet paper whatever, right? Like, and now you can know that we have these things. The question is, does it still work? I'm not taking it away. Right. The idea is that you have this thing, but by the weight of your service and your business model and your, all of these things, you make money through offering value to the community. And again, I don't mean to be prescriptive, but it seems odd to me that it's like, okay, you're saying you only make money because you have the only one of this thing. When in reality, the Idaho consumer wants to engage in a service that's making money because it has a quality service, not because it purchased this thing and it's the only one, right? We don't win when we do that. Right. We, the Idaho consumer, we lose distinctly. Yeah. And again, like, this is a tough situation. And I have lost the business before, and it wasn't my fault. Just like you losing your business, not your fault. It's not like you were behaving inappropriately or providing a service that nobody cared for. It's like, everything you said aligns with me. That being said, what benefits the state of Idaho? What benefits the consumers in Idaho? And are we improving our economic viability and our capacity by continuing this, or are we artificially hampering economic growth in the state of Idaho by keeping with this legislation in a time when we all need economic prosperity and growth, when we all need dollars exchanging hands and we need valuable services. And as frustrating as it is, competition does make a winner and a loser, but then that person wins and then the next person comes up and competes with them. And one person wins out of that. And either the original winner wins because they get hardened and they get better, or they get knocked out. Right. And then you have this whole big mass of a matrix of people just like push, and all of a sudden we all win.
This is, and well, I know we got to get going, but it's just, it irks me to see that, Idaho kind of came together as this, unit to be like the Broncos, man, the Boise State Broncos, this football team who's the little guy, and they wanted to be the bracket busters, like they wanted to like get in there and compete against the big dogs, they wanted that opportunity. And for a long time, the FBS told them no, they couldn't do that, because they had the system in place where the Alabamas, the Georgias, the SEC teams, the ACC teams, they were getting a lot of the run, the Big Ten and all that. And, they wanted to keep it that way because that's where the money was at, and we fought to be like, hey, let's expand the playoff system. Let's get in there so, one of the smaller teams can get in there and make a little bit of money too. We'd like to be able to compete. We'd like to be able to put ourselves on the map. This is the same thing, man, but this is in Idaho, and this is about Idaho's businesses. Like, we want to compete. We want to be able to show off what we can do, and they're not giving the opportunity. They should look at, what systems were put in place that kept us down as, Boise State, and how they wanted to see that grow, and, see that it's doing the same things to businesses in Idaho. So,
listen, man, I really appreciate you explaining this.
Hey.
I knew a tiny fraction of this. I knew there was a thing called a liquor license. I didn't know any of this stuff.
Well, it sounds like you guys, smartened up a little bit from past conversations.
Well, I smartened up a lot now, but I'd love to hear from more people.
Yeah.
Please, the people that you've connected with, please share my contact with them. I would love to talk to them,
okay.
And especially Guthrie. Senator Guthrie, right? Yeah, I would love to connect with him and understand what he's thinking. If not before the legislative session, then definitely during, which is obviously coming up. So, listen, let's not make this the last time you and I connect. I really appreciate you, and let's do it again.
Matt, thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, and I would love to come back and do it again.
Awesome, man. Thank you.